Hello everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. So in this video we will go over labs 1, 2, 3, 4 from unit 2, and all of those labs are basically done on one folder, which is the Suez Canal folder. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but there's a folder called Suez Canal files on Moodle. That's what you're supposed to download, and then you're supposed to work on that. So I've already downloaded it here. What I'm going to do is I will probably first take a look at it. Okay, so there's a folder within it which is called Suez Canal, whatever it is, and I will extract it here so that I have the folder. Okay, and then I'm going to work on that folder. So now all these files are already given to me. I'm supposed to work on them right now, according to whatever is given in the lab. Okay, so so the first lab basically says that you're supposed to implement a CSS file. You're supposed to download, we've done that. You're supposed to create a CSS file called styles.css, and you should save it in the same folder. And then you have to link it to index.html. Okay. Code the styles.css file according to the table and observe the results on the next slide. So what we have to do is first of all download this, which we've done that. The second thing is you're supposed to create a styles.css file, which is not there. So you create that file, you write all of this code here in that CSS file, and then you link that CSS file to your index.html. Okay, and then you just observe how it looks different without CSS, and then how does it look with CSS. Okay, so let me quickly open this. So we're supposed to work on index.html first, right? So I'll edit it with Notepad++. So I have that here, and then I'm going to also create a new file and save that as what should I save it as? Yes, styles. Remember, the name should be similar to what is given in the PowerPoint. So styles.css, and just change it to all types. So you save as all types, save. So now I have my styles.css and then I have my index.html. Now the problem with index.html is it's not validated, which means that if I go to, let's say, I don't want you to see my calendar. So, okay. So if I go to, where should I go to? Okay, validator. Okay, yes. Here, and upload, file upload, choose. Okay, that's not what I want. Solutions. Okay. Index.html, and check it. It will tell me that I have how many errors are there? I have 5 errors currently. So we've learned this, right? So we'll try to fix this according to all these errors that are being displayed here. Okay, so first of all, we have the HTML. We're supposed to add a language attribute. We should have a doc type, and then we should have a title. Head is missing basically, and then the title is also missing, and then the alternate attributes for the image. Okay, so HTML, you should have language. That's the first. Before this, you should also have doc type HTML, just to clarify that this file basically has HTML. The document type of this file is HTML because there are multiple other markup languages as well. If you notice in this document, you have HTML, you have body, but one thing that's missing is the head tag. Okay, so within the head tag, you will have first of all the what's this called? The title. Okay, and then you just display anything that you want to display there, and that should be it for now. If I, okay, the alternate tags, let's add them, map, and then ship. Okay, I think that is it. Um, error, what's this? Error, image, head is missing, doc type. Okay, that's it. We've covered all of them. So we'll save this. Now I've created the styles. Okay. Now I need to link this styles with my index because right now my index file doesn't really know that there is a styles file. So you have to tell your index file that, hey, by the way, there's a styling document that you should refer when you're displaying this. And how do we say that? We link it. We link it where? In the head. We don't link it in the body. We don't link it in the HTML. We link it in the head. Okay, so in the head, they can remember that, if that makes sense. Okay, so I would just write link, and then you should define the relationship that the document that you're linking has with this particular document. So you're saying, what is the relationship of styles.css with index.html? So basically, styles.css is a style sheet, and that's what you're going to mention here, style sheet. And then you're supposed to give the reference or where does it exist. So if we notice in the folder, we have index and styles in the same place. So we will just write styles.css for now in the href. But if the styles.css was, let's say, in another folder, then you have to add the folder name, just like how we do for images. Okay, so here I can just write styles.css, save that. Now nothing is going to really happen because why is it not going to happen? Because we did not code anything in styles.css, right? So far, nothing is going to happen. So let's look at what we need to code. Okay, and then we can notice the differences. So first of all, let's see how it looks before any CSS. How does it actually look in its all beauty? This is how it looks. Pretty simple, plain, doesn't have much, just basic stuff, right? So how do we make this a little more beautiful? Let's look at it. So if I go back to the lab, it says I'm supposed to code all of this in styles.css. Okay, so let's look at how to write that. So first, the first thing you write in your CSS when you're coding is the selector. Okay, and in the selector, you know, the first one is P. P stands for paragraph, right? So we're saying for paragraphs in in your HTML documents, you need to apply this styling. So the brackets signify all the stylings that you want to apply to this particular selector. Okay, so if and within the brackets, you're just going to write the styling. So in this case, the property is background background color. Okay, and then it's going to be light blue. Okay, so that's basically it. Background color colon, that's your property. Okay, so all of this is considered as a property, and then your value is whatever is in the value column, and every line has to end with a semicolon. Do not forget this, because if you try to write something else, let's say I try to write something else here, notice the notice the color difference between this one and this one. That's because this is not being recognized so far. So if you put a semicolon here, notice how the color changes. So do not forget to put semicolons at the end. Now, what does this state? This means every paragraph in your HTML document should have a background color, not the text color, but the background color as light blue. Okay, if I save this, notice how it becomes, how it looks a bit different. So if I refresh, now see all my paragraph tags have a light blue color at the background. Okay, so that's your that's the effect this has. The second thing is you should have, now here we're trying to say that both H1 and H3 should have color dark blue. Now you can write it this way. You can write H1 brackets and then you can say color dark blue. Okay. And then another one for H3 and say color dark blue. That's fine. That's fine. But the thing is, you can even write them together. You can write H1 and H2. Sorry. Yeah, H3, sorry. So you can say H1 and the comma really says and. So it's like you're signifying that all these, when you put a comma, you're signifying all these attributes, oh sorry, all these selectors should have these properties, whichever are mentioned within the brackets. So either you write them separate or you write them together. I would prefer that if you, like right now, it doesn't really matter because you only have one property, but if you have 20 properties, then it's basically easier to, put them together and say, okay, for for your H1 tag and your H3 tag, the color, the text color should be dark blue. Okay, so I'll just get rid of this now because I've already added it here, right? So if I save this and refresh, I mean, you won't probably see the difference, but it is dark blue. I think it would be more evident if I make it red. See? So the H1 and then the H3 are now, the text color is now different, right? So I'll make it back to dark blue because that is what they asked for in the lab. So we're done with the second property, is second selector as well. Now, the third one says the image or the image tag, img, is the border for that should be 1 pixels, solid and red. Now, let's look at that. So they're saying the image in your HTML document should have a border, right? So the border should be 1 pixels and solid and red. So let's look at how, and I don't know if you can notice, but there's a space between 1 pixels, solid and red. So 1 pixels, space, solid, space red. It's written like that. So here, I would write the property border, okay? And then if I just write 1 pixels, let's see what happens. I don't know if it's uh, visible, but if I make it 10 pixels, it doesn't really show, right? It doesn't really show because you were supposed to specify the type of the color, sorry, the type of the border, and let's see if it shows then. See, now it shows as a border, but the thing here is you can have other types as well. There's something called dotted as well, from what I know. If you use that, then it becomes dotted. Okay, so 10 pixels and then dotted. In this case, they're asking for 1 pixel, so I'll leave it as 1 pixels and then solid. And then you can also specify the color of the border. Here, they want it to be red, so just write red. Okay, and then save that. and notice how it looks here. It's very small, but I think it's visible. Like if you increase the font size, you can see that there is a red border, right? So yeah, so that's for the image. Now there's a last at selector. I don't know why I keep saying attribute, but a last selector, which is A. Now notice for A, they have written two times. They've written the selector two times. That doesn't mean that you have to write it two times. That just means that there are multiple properties for this particular selector. So what you can do is just write A, okay? And then within that A, you can write both the properties. So the first one is color, which is green, okay? And then the second, this one, the color green, and the second one is font weight, which is bold. So font and then weight, bold. So let's see. Now all the links should become bold for some, yeah, this one, I think. So if we refresh, so now they're green and they're bold in color. So that's lab one. I think that's how it should look. Let's try to see if it does look like that. Yes, very similar. So we have green links, we have blue, dark blue headings, we have light blue background for paragraphs, and then we have image with the, I mean, this one, it's kind of cropped, but we have image with the red border. So that's lab one. Okay, now moving on to lab two. Let's find where lab two is. Okay, this is lab two. So here it says, oh, before we go to lab two, let's try to check if our HTML is valid now, because I want you to always write code that is valid. Okay, so if I choose the file again from index.html and check, perfect. That's what we want, the green signal, okay, that you've not made any mistake. So that's lab one. Now in lab two, we're supposed to implement class and ID selectors in HTML and CSS. So if you remember from what we discussed about classes and IDs, just remember that this is like giving a name to your generic styles, but the only difference is IDs should be unique and classes can be generic. You know, you can use classes multiple times. You can use the same class name multiple times, but the ID name cannot repeat. It has to be unique. Okay, so this one is basically in we're supposed to add a link to styles.css in history.html. So I'm going to open that, history.html, open. Now again, it's invalid. So let's take a few minutes to just make it valid. We add the language attribute, we add the head, okay, here, head, and then you give it a title, um, like just name it with the folder name, and then what they want you to do is the link. Now again this one, let me just quickly fix this. Alt map, and then alt, I don't know why I keep hitting that key. Okay, opening. Okay, save that. Now again, this particular document doesn't know of the existing styles that you created. So this particular document, if you open it in the browser, it's going to look simple. And look at how the links and the paragraphs and the headings, they don't have the styling that you created for index, right? So that's because this particular document doesn't know that your styles even exist. So for it to enlighten the document that, hey, please go and fetch all that styling from the index, sorry, from the styles class, sorry, from the styles.css file, you have to add a link. You have to create a link for that. So in the head tag, I'll create a link, I should specify the relationship that it has, style sheet, and then the reference. Again, if we notice the folder, the history document, or the history document and the styles document, they are in the same folder, so you do not need to add any folder name. You can just write styles.css. Okay, just verify the name if the name that you're using here is same as the file name, so it is styles. That's correct. Now we've just created the link right now, right? So if I go back and look at the file now, notice how it would look. Refresh. See, it picked up all the styles that were there. So here we have to do some additional stuff in the styles.css. It says, first of all, okay, we've added a link to styles.css. We've done this. Okay, in the in the HTML of index.html and history.html, define the first paragraph as class first. So they're saying in both, okay, I then have to open index as well. So they're saying in both the history.html and index.html, the first paragraph tag that you find should have a class called first. So all I have to do is just write class first for the first paragraph that I find. This is the first paragraph, this is the second, and then this is the third, right? So for the first paragraph, I should add a class called first. Now this is the name that I'm creating for the class, and this can be generic. You can repeat it, okay, because it's a class. But if it was an ID, you cannot repeat it. Now, similarly, I'll go to history.html, find where is the first p tag, which is here, and then I'll give it a class called first. Now remember this, how do we know we have to put an equal to and the double quotes? Anything that turns red when you write here, so for example, this, 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 like anything that turns red in your HTML document when you're writing it in Notepad++, you have to add an equal to and then double quotes. Okay, just remember that's the easy way of remembering it. Or the other way to remember is that you, and any attribute is basically, it should have an equal to and then double quotations. But how do you know it's an attribute? Just remember, if it turns red in color, then you have to add equal to and then double quotations. So I've done that. I've added the class first to the first paragraph. Now to the second paragraph, you have to add class second, and to the third paragraph class third. Okay, so here I'm going to just write second paragraph, class second, and then third paragraph, class third. Okay, the same thing I'm going to do it in index because they asked us to do it in both of the files, right? So second and then finally third. Make sure you don't make any spelling mistakes. So don't write it as, this and then write it's different in the other page. Make sure the spellings are correct. The final thing is that the third paragraph, okay, we've done that, sorry. The final thing is define the list of links as ID links. Okay, so there is a list of links. If we look at the document, the only list is this, right? And this is basically a bullet list. So we have to find the UL tag, which is here. And now it says you're supposed to add an ID links to the list of links. That doesn't mean that you have to add ID for each of the list item, because it doesn't say you should add the ID for list item. It says for the list of links. So the list is this one. This is just a list item. Okay. So when they say add something to a list, that really means to either UL or OL if it's the ordered list. Okay. So here you would add ID and then links. And this wouldn't make sense even, adding for list items, for each of the list items, adding ID would not make sense because, like I said, ID cannot repeat. So this links word cannot repeat anywhere else in this document now because you've just created it here. So it has to be unique. Okay. Now, okay. Now we've done all of that. We've done, oh, I forgot to do it, I think in index, sorry, yeah, in history, I should add the same thing, ID links, okay, in the UL. Now we're done, we're done with that. Now the second thing we need to do is add styles. We have to add code to styles.css to implement the following settings. So in the styles, you have to write all of this that is given here, okay? So now it's the same styles file. You do not go and create another styles file, okay? Now here it says first, for the selector first, you should give it a background color of this. Now we know first from here it's a class. How do you represent class in style in the styles file? Using a dot. So dot means it should be it's a class, okay? And then you say first, you write first and then the brackets, okay? And then you would write whatever property you have to write. So background color hash 6 C D A A. This is how you actually represent colors using hexadecimal, okay? Now this color should look something like this, okay? So if I save this, let's go and check what happens to the first paragraph. See, now the color of the first paragraph is different because we gave it a class and we created a style for that class, and that style is only applied wherever that class is used. Okay, now similarly for second, you would write dot second and then background color hash 7FFFD4. Okay, that's the second color. Let's take a look quickly before my laptop dies. So it's a bit different. It's a bit lighter color. And then finally, the third is dot third background color, and it should be hash E0FFFF. Now it doesn't have to be fully capital. You can even use small f here. That's fine. So let's look at that. Now notice these changes are happening in both index and history. Okay. That's because we only have one style file, style document, and that is being used by all the HTML documents. Now the last one is links. Now for links, we don't use dot. For links, because it's an ID, as stated here, we have to use hash. So dot for class, hash for ID, and then we would write links, brackets, and then background color will be hash D3, oops, 1 second. D3, D3, D3. Okay, save that. And now there's a background color here. So that's lab 2. Okay, and it should look something like this, which it looks like. Okay, navigate to history.html using the hyperlink and check this new styles apply to. So if I click on history, it should be the same. I was already on history, by the way. So here and here. Okay, so they're the same, and that's your lab 2. Now one more thing that's there, it says now create an external CSS file for your house builder site and insert a link to the CSS in each to the CSS file in each page. Use CSS to apply styles to paragraph heading 1, heading 3. Experiment with different styles for font family, color, background. Research online which styles are available. Now, I'm not going to do this. This is something for your practice. You should, for the labs that we created for Unit 1, you should be able to go now and create an external CSS file for them. for the house builder site, and then add whatever styles where you were using in probably the index, like using the inline style. um, you have to remove those, make them into the, put them in the external CSS that you create, and then create additional styles, test, experiment with whatever you can, and yeah, try to do that. If you have any questions, you can ask me, but I'm not going to go over that. Okay, now I'll go over to lab 3 quickly. Yes. Now, implementing global CSS styles. Now, for okay, for the global styles, what we mean is um, we have to put the styles within the body selector, because the body selector has all your code that is, or has all the content that is to be displayed. So if you add any styles to the body, it would implement it for everything. Okay, and we'll see how now. So we have to now open layout, not HTML. Okay, and then again, it's not validated, so we will quickly validate it. Language, English, we don't have a head. I mean, this document doesn't have a head. So head, and then here, we would just write Suez Canal, and then, yeah, link. Remember, we have a styles file. We will link it here. Now this should be, you should be able to do this without thinking. So here we have the layout, and then we have the styles in the same folder. So you can just write the name of the file for the reference, styles.css, and that's it. And then alt map, and then alt container. Okay, save that. That's it. It takes a minute to do that, but then you have validated code, which is best practice. Now, here in index, sorry, in the layout.html, okay, I've added the link, which is here. Now, in the index, so why do I keep reading it this index? In the HTML of layout.html, define the first paragraph as first. Again, this one should be first because that's the first paragraph tag in this file. First, second, and then third. Okay, that is done. And then list of links. So again, remember from last time, ID links, save that. Then add to the styles.css to implement these settings and test. Okay, so I'll go to styles.css. Now, my preferred way of doing this is always keep the body selector at the top, because that's the global styling, and if you mess something there, it's easier to find because you know that the body selector is at the top. But if you keep it somewhere in the middle and your CSS has like 200 lines of code, then it's difficult to find unless you use the control F, where it's best practice to keep it at the top. So I'll write it at the top here, body. It doesn't have any significance, it's just best practice. So I have the body tag here. And notice I'm not going to make all these separate body selectors. I'll just keep one body selector there, and I'll add all these properties. So the first one that I'm going to add is margin, and it's 1 EM. And you should remember what's EM. You can refer to Unit 2 video. It's everything is there, but it's a one way of representing size. Okay, so margin 1 EM. And then padding should be 1 EM. Let's see if it makes any difference. Now, because this style is linked, this document is linked to all the pages, all the 3 pages, the effect should be there. So this is how it currently looks. Let's see if I refresh what happens. Okay, so there is extra margin and extra spacing. That's perfect. Now we've done the first 2 properties. the third one is font family, and it is Arial. Okay, now again, this will be a noticeable difference. Now it's different font. Okay, now again, font size should be what? 1M. I don't know if it's called MEM, whatever. As long as it works, that's what I care. Okay, the font size is normal. 1EM is like, or 1M is like normal. Okay, and then if you add, like, if I change this to 2, it would be a bit, bit larger because it would be 2 times. Okay, now 1M, and then what else? Background color is hash E6, E6, oh my god, it's so difficult, E6 FA. Let's see the background color if it shows up. Yes, now we have a pretty background color. This is how it was looking initially, and look how it looks now. A bit better, that's good. And then we have the background color. The final thing is the color should be dark blue. Okay, and if I refresh this, so now initially all this text was black in color, right? The paragraph text, but now the paragraph text is dark blue, if you can notice the difference, because it's now a global style, and it doesn't matter if you use the p tag anymore or not. It's just going to take the color from here, and it will apply to um, all the selectors. Okay, that's it. That's lab 3. And notice how this is like common. So if I can show it to you clearly, this is how it looks now, and then this is how it was looking before. Okay, now if I refresh this, also it will look similar because the style sheet is common, right? Again, so that is lab 3. Let's see if it looks how it should look. Yes, it does look how it should look. If I go to home, this is how it looks. And that is it for this lab. Okay, now for lab, let's move to lab 4 quickly. Okay, lab 4 should be, okay, let me keep this open. Implementing a structure using divs and floats. Again, this is covered in Unit 2 video. I'm so glad I made that video because these are some important things. So if you want to refer to these again, if you don't have a good idea about them, go back and watch YouTube. On the YouTube, there's a video Unit 2. Watch that, and then you'll get a bit more idea about it. Okay, so here we're supposed to work on environment.html. So I'm quickly going to open that. Open again. Oh, wait, I forgot one of the this thing here in the layout, the doc type HTML. Again, I'm going to add that here. This should be language, and then we have head. Okay, should have title and more. Oh no, let's give it the same name. Swiss nav. Okay, and then what else? Yes, link to style sheet, and then give it a reference, because again, environment is this document is in the same folder as the style sheet. Notice environment, they're in the same folder, so just use the name for the link, for the hyperlink. And is there any image? Yes. Alt should be map, and then Alt should be met. Okay. Now, again, add a link. We did that. We added a link here. Define the first paragraph. Oh, okay, the same thing again. First paragraph should be class first. Second paragraph should be class second. Third paragraph should be class. Oh, see? See, this is the exact example I wanted you to see. Now, if I write third and then I put equal to, this never changed to red because it's not an attribute. If it changes to red, it's an attribute. And if it is an attribute, you have to add equal to in double quotes. Okay, so I'll write it as class third. Now, class is red because it's an attribute. Okay, and then the list of links is ID. This bothers me because it's not properly intended. So anyway, ID links, save that. Let's see if it looks how it should look. Yes, following the same thing. Now it says in HTML of all 4 pages, do the following: create a division called menu, which includes the list of links. So this thing, this whole thing, and the picture map JPG below the list, which is this one. So this one, okay, should be with the list of links here. So below the link, I have now map, the image map. And this should be surrounded by a division. If I can move it here. Actually, let me move it here. Okay, and this is so much worse. Okay, so now we have a division. Okay, within that division, we have the list of links and the image. Just like how they said, division menu, which includes the list of link and the map image. And this should have, I'll just use IDs because that's convenient. I'll name it menu. Okay, so division called menu, and then it has links and image. Will it do anything? Oops. Will it do anything? Yes, it will show me the list of links, the menu, and everything is below. Perfect. Okay, now define the first picture as a class called main pic. So this picture should be called, I'm not sure if I'm doing this correct, but let's see. It should be called main pic. So define the first, this is the first picture now. I hope that this is the one they're talking about. But they said that you should have a class called main pic for the first image. Okay, it's not going to do anything, but let's see. Create a division called content, which includes the remaining content and the second picture. So the remaining content is all of this, and the second picture is this. Wait, where did this division come from? I never created that division. And there is no other division, so where is it coming from? Div? This is a one. Oh, I don't know, maybe by mistake. It shouldn't be here. Anyway, so we have the remaining content, which is the headings, the 3 paragraphs, and the image, right? So all of this should be within another division. Okay, and then I will move all of this within the division. I don't know if it's going to work this way. Oh, okay. So you select and you press tab and it moves everything. That's good. Okay, so all of this is within a division called ID content. Okay, save that. Now, what's more? move the second picture before the header of the third paragraph, before the header of the third paragraph. Define the second picture as content pic. So this is the third paragraph. This is the third paragraph. This is the heading for the third paragraph, right? And this is basically the second paragraph, and this is basically the first. So for each of the paragraphs, there's a heading, right? They're telling you to move the image, which is this one, before the header of the third paragraph. So this is the third paragraph, and this is the header for the third paragraph. So before this, just move it here, and don't make it look ugly, but this should be like this. Okay. Now, define the second picture as a class called content pic. So this is the second picture. You should have a class called content pic. Okay. Then add to, okay, let's see how it looks currently. If I refresh. Okay, yeah, this is how it's looking. Okay, perfect. So now you should go to styles.css, which is here. I'll write it at the very bottom. You should have menu. For menu selector, you need to add width and float. Now let's go back and look at, let's keep this here. Let's go back and check the menu. Okay, so we look at how menu is written. Is it a class or is it an ID? So if we look back, I created menu as an ID, right? Why is this important? Because I have to add it here, right? So I need to know whether I should put a dot or should I put a hash, right? So because it's an ID, because menu is ID here. So like here, I created menu as ID, right? So I'm going to use hash and then menu and then both of those properties. The first one is width should be 25%. So width is 25%, and then it should float to left. Save that, and let's look at how it looks currently. Okay, this is terrible because it's smaller, but if you look at it like this, so this is basically the first, what's it called? The menu, right? The menu ID is the list of links and the image. So it's only taking 20%, 25% of the width. Now this is weird because we did not style the rest of it, but it will look better hopefully. Okay, but let's see. So this is how it looks currently. If we go back, now I've added for the menu. Now the second thing is content. Again, let's go back and see if content is ID or class. So content, again, I added it as ID. So I would write hash content. Okay, and then here I have to add a width of 70%. Okay, that's the first one. And the second one is float to the right. So float to right, save that. And let's see if it looks a bit better. It does look a bit better, but let's see. Yeah, so now it's better. If I, because maybe it's too big when we make it small, so let me keep it of this size so we can view it like this. Yeah, this is basically how it's looking. I want to keep it of this size so we can see it properly when it's when the browser is of this size. Anyway, so this is how it's looking. It's now moved to the right, and this is on the left, and it's taking 25% of width here and 70% width here. Okay, so we're done with content. The next thing is main pick. Now, if you remember, main pick was basically a class, right? So for that, you have to add dot main pick. Now, remember for all of these, okay, let's forget that. I don't want to confuse you. So main pick, you have to add width it says it should be 100%. Okay, and then I don't know if it's going to make any difference, but oh, okay, so it took the whole width. It was a bit small, but now it's taking the whole width, which is what? 25% because it's under menu, and menu is only has a only width of 25%, which is perfect. So we're done with the width. Sorry, we're done with main pick. Now the second thing is content pick. Now again, go back. What did you add content pick as? It was a class. So class dot content pick. Okay. Content pick. And what are the properties? The first is width should be 55%. Width 55%. Let me just make this a bit bigger so it's visible for me also. Okay, width is 55%. Height is what? 25%. And then it's floating to the right. Okay, so float right. Margin top is 2.5 m, and then margin left is 0.5 m, and that's it. So we said width should be 55%, height should be 25%, it should float to the right, and there should be spacing at the top of the image and at the left of the image. So let's save that, and this is how it's looking right now. Okay, so this is how it looks right now. Now when you hover, if I make this, we're doing it in the correct file, right? Let me see. Environment, yeah. Okay, so if I make this reset, this is how it would look. Now that's because the text is changing, the placement of it is changing, all of that is changing. Let's see for the remaining. Okay, so for the anchor or for the links, if you hover over them, let's state again, if you hover over them, you should have text decoration, which is just decoration of text. It should basically underline. Okay, and then the next thing is that the color should change to hash 7CFC00. Okay, so if we refresh all the links, the color is changing and they're underlined. They were underlined before as well, weren't they? I mean, I don't know. I remember that it was underlined. Yeah, they were underlined before as well. Anyway, so that is how it's basically done. Lab 4, and this is how I think they're showing you a different check that you can navigate between all 4 pages, and that each page shows the same styling including position of the second picture. Also check that you can resize the page without affecting the layout. I hope so. Okay, let's go to history. Oh, should you assign? Okay. I get what they say, what they said here. I think you have to, yeah, they said we have to do that for all the 4 pages, and I just did for one. Anyway, so we can quickly do that. That's not an issue. I'm just going to copy the divisions so I don't mess up the names and everything. This is the first division. Okay, select all of that, press tab. Perfect. Life is good when you can do that. Remove the image, add it below the links, put a class for it, name it main pic. Okay, and then the second thing is content. Oh, that's going to take so long actually. Anyway, division tab. This is the third header, and before that header, it says before the header, right? Or before the header of the third paragraph. Yeah. Okay, and then this one will have a class called content pic. Now this is history. History should look similar, which it is. And then you should have the same thing here in index and in layout. So here I'm again going to create div, call it ID menu. Okay. All of this actually would be here. Press tab, move this image here, class main pic, and then this one is in a division called content. And this will be before the header. Okay, and then class content pic. I hope this is correct for layout. Oh, did I do for layout? Environment is, did I save it? Oh, this is index, sorry. Yeah, for the index, perfect. And then for the layout, the same thing. Just going to copy this. But actually, I don't know if they're the same. Yeah, they are the same. So I can just copy this part. Because that's the same, remove this. Okay, and then this should be in class div class. What should be the name? Oh, sorry, it's not class, my bad. It's ID content. Okay, and then move all of this within. Okay, and then this image should be within before, and then I think that's it. I'll just move this a bit here, and then class for this one, content pic. Okay, so all of them now should look similar. Yeah, perfect. Now let's look at how it looks here. So I think that they are here showing the index. So if we go to index, it looks very similar. Looks very similar. And now if you, yeah, looks very similar. Okay, now this is going to just depend on, like, this section is just going to depend on how you have sized your page. So I think that theirs is a bit like this. To this extent, I think. Where it says located in, where is located in? Yeah, theirs looks something like this. If we notice here, okay. Anyway, it looks similar. The only thing is, if you resize, it's going to resize this section, so it might not look as identical, but that's the correct way of doing it. So those are your, yeah, I think that's until lab 4. Lab 5 will be in a different video. Yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. And thank you for watching.